Okay, so I've got a new comedian that I wanted to check out. He was recommended to me a while back, Billy Connolly. I don't recall if a specific bit was recommended. I recall seeing his name in my list. I was looking for a new person to check out. And when I pulled him up and I saw some of the thumbnails of his face, I was like, well, he looks familiar. I think I've seen him in movies or shows or something. And sure enough, I looked him up. It looks like he does do some acting. I couldn't tell you now what I saw him in, but I think I've seen him before in stuff. I don't believe I have seen or heard any of his comedy before. So anyway, the video that I'm getting ready to watch now is just called Billy Connolly's Hilarious Bit. I think this might be the one about a bombing in Glasgow or something like that. Anyway, so just going to go ahead and jump right into it now.
So anyway, my sister told me this. And she swears that it's true.
Maybe it's not the Glasgow one.
And I hope it's true. And if I tell it right, you will hope it's true. My sister is a retired school teacher. And she supplies herself to people who don't have teachers. She's a supply teacher. When somebody is sick or dead, she'll supply herself.
So like a substitute teacher.
And a lot of her friends do this as well. And her friend told her this story. And when she told me the story, I thought I would pee myself. Okay. I was in New York where I live, and she phoned me, and I fell on my phone's next to my bed. I fell onto my bed. You know that way you laugh, your legs won't work right? Yeah. And I told my wife, I said, Flo just told me the funniest story. I'm going to tell my audience. It's about a dwarf. And she said, well, you can't, Billy. You can't do that.
Yes, you can.
I said, why? She says, because you can't say dwarf. I said, why the fuck not? And we're talking about a dwarf. Surely you can say dwarf when it's a dwarf you're talking about.
All right.
She says, they're little people.
Oh my gosh.
I said, but little people and dwarfs. There's a difference between a little person and a dwarf. One of them's a fucking dwarf. And they both know which one it fucking is. Don't give me that shite.
Right? Look at the way he's leaning forward like Michael Jackson in Smooth Criminal.
So I decided to tell it. Her friend was going to supply herself to a school somewhere. And she got on a Glasgow bus. Oh, please be true. And she sat down, and it just happened to be the last seat. And the bus took off and trundled off into the day. 4 or 5 stops later, the bus stops, and a wee dwarf woman comes on. I've now compounded the felony by calling her a wee dwarf. She wasn't a particularly small dwarf. She was just a dwarf-sized dwarf.
Okay.
I'll probably get all sorts of complaints now.
Oh.
Dear Mr. Connolly, I saw your otherwise excellent show. What a pity.
Right.
You descended to the dwarf story. I, personally, am a member of the Tall Dwarf Society. I'm 6'4". Oh. I'm proud to call myself a dwarf.
Mm-hmm. He's cracking himself up.
I also do impersonations of chocolate biscuits, if you're ever stuck. Anyway, the wee woman got on the bus, the wee dwarf woman, and discovered there's no seat, and so hung on to whatever was nearest, the seat to the pole or whatever, and the bus took off. There was a wee schoolgirl in a school uniform sitting over here, probably urged along by her mother. Give the woman your seat. Give that woman your seat. Mm-hmm. She went over to the wee dwarf woman And she said, excuse me, would you like to have my seat? Whereupon the wee dwarf woman flew into a rage and said, oh, aye, because I'm a dwarf. You're offering me a seat simply because I'm a dwarf. Yeah. Well, I have managed my whole life as a dwarf. It's not a problem to me. Keep your seat. The girl, cringing with embarrassment, went back to her seat, and the bus trundled on in silent embarrassment for a stop or three. Mm. Then, oh, please be true, a big Glasgow woman was getting off the bus. And before she went up to the door, she went over to the wee dwarf woman. Oh. She said, I'm getting off the bus and I'm leaving my empty seat here. Because I'm a dwarf? You said, no, not because you're a dwarf, because you're another human being. I happen to be leaving the bus. My seat is vacant. I'm merely pointing it out to you that it exists. As a matter of fact, I thought you were extremely rude to that wee girl and you owe her an apology. As a matter of fact, I hope when you go home tonight, Snow White kicks your ass.
Please be true.
Don't you hope it's true?
He's cracking himself up.
Well, listen.
Oh, shoot. Sorry. Okay. That was funny. I like this guy. He doesn't buy into the whole PC crap. Of course, he's older now. I mean, not now, but I mean, he's older. I think I read something about him that, has he been diagnosed with like Parkinson's or dementia or something like that? Because I saw some people saying something, maybe in the comment section of one of his videos, maybe this one or the one about the Glasgow airport bombing or something. I thought someone mentioned that he had said that he was forgetting his lines or his, his stories, his bits or something like that. So I might be wrong. I might be mixing him up with somebody else, but I'm pretty sure it's the same guy. Anyway, I've never seen his comedy stuff, but he's funny and it tickles me that he gets tickled at his own stuff. I always find that pretty funny when a stand-up comic gets a kick out of their own material and then they start laughing. I don't know. You know how you like to see people laugh? So I like to see that, it's funny. It tickles me. One of the things that he mentioned, some things that were occurring to me as he was telling the story, well, a couple things. I feel like I'm going to forget one of them. And this is not related to the story itself, but when he was talking about that he got so tickled that his legs wouldn't work and he fell down on the bed laughing. There is a name for that when you are laughing so hard and something happens to your muscles, like they don't work right, they get weak or something like that. So and that happens to me sometimes. Like I noticed there have been times when, let's say I'm trying to write something and something funny happens and I'm laughing and I'm laughing and I can't grip the pencil very well. It's hard to write. It's like my motor functions are compromised when I'm laughing so hard, like my fine motor functions, because I can't write. And and another thing that reminds me of when he said that, the show Impractical Jokers, which is freaking hilarious, you guys. If you haven't seen them, you really must check them out. One of the guys on there, Sal, when he gets really tickled about something, he literally falls down. He cannot stand up. He actually cannot stand up. Now, I don't have it as bad as that. And when you watch it, and if you don't know any better, you may think he's just being overly dramatic, but he really loses control of his legs, and he falls, and he'll grab onto his friends, kind of bring him down with him. It's really funny. Anyway, so whatever. That was funny, and I do hope it's true, because people like the dwarf, and I heard there's another word. So he says that dwarf is considered offensive. I've been hearing midget is considered offensive. Everything is considered offensive these days to somebody, and whatever. That's how I feel about that. Okay, so that type of person, they kind of get under my skin because they're so prickly, and they have her acting like that, and there are people that act like that. We know who they are when we come across them, right? Somebody who has such a strong victim type mentality, and it almost turns a little narcissistic, sort of, if that's a good way to describe it. And they think that any sort of overture made to them, or whatever look or comment or gesture, they will almost immediately interpret that to mean something hostile, or because of the way they are, and they just get very antagonistic. So I could see that being true, like someone like the dwarf saying that and acting that way. At the same time, of course, it could, it's possible that it's not true, but why would his sister lie to him? That's what makes me think it's true. Anyway, that was pretty funny. Oh, something else that occurred to me. When I was watching that, and he was talking about his sister, and he said that he said his sister was a retired school teacher or something like that. I think that was how he worded it, and that just made me flash back to a memory of when I was a kid. I was really young. I was like less than 10. I was maybe 8 or something like that. And one of my folks and I were living with my grandmother at the time, my grandma and grandpa at the time, and they had a neighbor at the end of the road. And one day we were there visiting with him for whatever reason, like maybe passing by and stopped and talked to him or whatever. And I can't remember who was with me. I don't remember if it was my mom or dad or one of my grandparents, and I can't remember if I asked him, like, what was he? Like, what did he do, basically? Or if it was the person that was with me that asked that. I honestly do not recall that part, but I do remember this one. He said he was a retired school teacher. And I was like, my vocabulary wasn't the best at the time. I was like, "You're a retarded school teacher?" And I don't know, that really cracked up whoever was with me, and they never forgot it. And it's something nobody has forgotten that was there at the time. And it's a story that's been told to some other members of the family. But it was just, so every time I hear that phrase, or even the word retired, I think of that when I was a kid, and I said that. Oh my gosh. Oh Lord. Anyway, so this was a short video, but I liked it, and I like his style of humor. He's not as energetic and rambunctious as some of the others that I have been watching, but the stuff that he talks about and the way that he delivers his material is really funny to me. I love his accent. I was a little skeptical that maybe I was going to have trouble understanding him, because I think is he Scottish, right? Scottish or Irish? I get those two accents mixed up, you guys. I cannot tell now. Like I have no clue. But anyway, I think he's Scottish. That's just a guess. But one of the reasons I hesitated before watching it was because I didn't know if maybe I'd have trouble understanding him. Maybe his accent would be so strong that I would have trouble because sometimes the Scottish accent or the Irish accent can be really, really heavy, and I have trouble, discerning what they say. But I didn't have any trouble at all understanding him, and he was funny. And I'm definitely going to watch some more of his stuff. I don't know when, but maybe the next one will be because I think one of his videos I pulled up the other day that I was about to watch, and I ended up not watching for whatever reason. Maybe something came up and I couldn't film as much as I wanted, but it was something about a bombing at a Glasgow airport. So I'm curious to see that and to see how he can turn that into something comedic. I guess we'll see. Okay, well, that's it for this one, you guys. I'm going to sign off and try to check out some more stuff before I call it quits for the evening. Nos vemos.